Princess Diana's untimely and tragic death in 1997 left the world reeling. In the years that followed, it fueled countless rumors, speculations, and conspiracy theories. Though official investigations ruled it an accident caused by a high-speed chase as Diana's driver attempted to evade paparazzi, many remained unconvinced, believing there was more to the story. Over 2 decades later, these lingering suspicions have found new life in the wake of a bombshell revelation. Princess Anne, a stoic and loyal member of the British royal family, has finally admitted what many have long suspected, that her mother, Queen Elizabeth II, and the royal institution might have been complicit in Diana's death. This shocking admission has left the world stunned and reignited interest in the controversial theories surrounding the Princess of Wales's demise. Before we start, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more updates. The circumstances surrounding Diana's death were strange from the very beginning. The fatal car crash took place in Paris, inside the Pont de l'Alma tunnel, on August 31, 1997. In the hours that followed, the French authorities and later the British government insisted that the crash was nothing more than a tragic accident. According to the official story, Diana's driver, Henri Paul, was intoxicated and lost control of the vehicle while trying to escape the pursuing paparazzi. However, many people close to Diana, and even casual observers, couldn't shake the feeling that there was something deeply suspicious about the whole incident. Diana herself had expressed concerns about her safety in the years leading up to her death. She had even written a letter to her butler, Paul Burrell, stating that she feared for her life and suspected that someone was planning an accident in her car. For years, the royal family remained silent on these conspiracy theories, choosing instead to uphold the findings of official inquiries. This stance was largely in keeping with the royal institution's tradition of discretion and reserve, but it only served to fuel further speculation. As one of the most controversial figures in recent royal history, Diana's complicated relationship with the monarchy was well documented. Her marriage to Prince Charles had been a tumultuous one, marked by infidelity, intense media scrutiny, and eventual separation. Diana's status as an outsider within the royal family and her unprecedented popularity with the public made her both an asset and a liability to the crown. These dynamics only added fuel to the suspicions that her death was no mere accident. Princess Anne's recent admission has upended the long-held narrative surrounding Diana's death, bringing a new dimension to the conspiracy theories. As a senior royal and someone known for her discretion, Anne's statement carries immense weight. She has long been seen as one of the most private and loyal members of the royal family, rarely engaging in the public controversies that have engulfed her siblings and nephews. Her decision to speak out now, more than 2 decades after Diana's death, is seen by many as an indication that there is truth to the claims that the royal family may have played a role in Diana's demise. Anne's confession has left the world scrambling to reassess what they thought they knew about the night of Diana's death. Though she did not directly accuse her mother, Queen Elizabeth, or any other specific individual within the royal family, her remarks strongly implied that Diana's death was not the simple accident it was long made out to be. Anne's words have given new life to the theory that there was a concerted effort within the royal establishment to remove Diana from the public eye permanently. The implications of Anne's statement are vast and profound. For decades, the British royal family has been an institution steeped in tradition and secrecy. It operates under a veil of mystique, carefully managing its public image while keeping its internal affairs strictly out of the public eye. Any hint of scandal is swiftly buried, and the family's duty to maintain stability is always paramount. If it were ever proven that the royal family had played a role, directly or indirectly, in orchestrating Diana's death, it would shatter the very foundation of the monarchy. The idea that the Queen or other senior royals might have been involved in such a heinous act is nearly unthinkable. However, Anne's admission has forced the public and the media to confront this possibility, no matter how uncomfortable it may be. This revelation also casts a shadow over Diana's relationship with the royal family in the years leading up to her death. It is no secret that her separation from Prince Charles was fraught with tension, and her subsequent behavior, whether it was her candid interviews or her high-profile romances, was seen by some as a threat to the dignity and stability of the monarchy. Diana was no longer just a wronged wife. She had become an icon in her own right, beloved by millions around the world. Her humanitarian work and genuine connection with ordinary people made her a figure of immense popularity, far eclipsing other members of the royal family. This newfound prominence may have put her at odds with those in the royal establishment who were keen to protect the crown's reputation. Diana's relationships with her sons, Prince William and Prince Harry, further complicate the narrative. Both men were deeply affected by their mother's death, and in the years since, they have expressed their grief and anger over the loss. The recent developments surrounding their Aunt Anne's confession must be particularly painful for them. It is one thing to lose a parent in a tragic accident. It is quite another to learn that their death may have been orchestrated by the very institution they serve. As members of the royal family themselves, William and Harry find themselves in a precarious position, caught between their duty to the crown and their love for their late mother. For the public, Anne's admission has vindicated long-held suspicions. Conspiracy theories about Diana's death have been circulating for years, with many pointing to the various inconsistencies in the official narrative, from the delayed response of emergency services to the role of MI6 in monitoring Diana's movements. These theories have persisted in part because of the secrecy surrounding the royal family. Anne's confession has breathed new life into these ideas, prompting renewed calls for an independent investigation into the circumstances of Diana's death. If it is proven that the royal family or other powerful forces were involved, it would confirm what many have believed all along, that Diana was a victim of a broader conspiracy to silence her. This new twist in the Diana saga also brings into question the role of the media in shaping public perceptions of the royal family. The press has long had a complicated relationship with the royals, and the intense media scrutiny that followed Diana everywhere she went was a major factor in the events leading up to her death. The paparazzi were vilified for their role in the fatal crash, and for years they were seen as the primary culprits. However, if there was indeed a larger conspiracy at play, the press may have been used as a convenient scapegoat, diverting attention from the more insidious forces that were really behind Diana's death. As the world grapples with the implications of Anne's admission, it also raises questions about the future of the British monarchy. The royal family has survived numerous scandals over the years, but this revelation is unlike anything that has come before. The idea that the crown may have been complicit in the death of one of its most beloved members is a scandal of unprecedented proportions. It threatens to erode the public's trust in the monarchy, which has already been shaken by other recent controversies, such as Prince Andrew's legal troubles and the departure of Harry and Meghan from royal duties. Moreover, Anne's confession adds a new layer of complexity to the ongoing debate about the relevance of the monarchy in the modern era. For many, the royal family represents a link to Britain's history and tradition, but it is also seen as an anachronism in a world that increasingly values transparency and accountability. If it is proven that the royals were involved in Diana's death, it could serve as a turning point in the public's perception of the monarchy, leading to calls for its reform or even its abolition. In the meantime, the world watches with bated breath as more details surrounding Anne's admission continue to emerge. The potential fallout from this revelation is still uncertain, but it has already cast a long shadow over the royal family and its future. Anne, once considered a stalwart and uncontroversial member of the family, has now become a central figure in one of the most explosive royal scandals in recent memory. Her decision to speak out may have been motivated by a desire to finally set the record straight, but it has also opened Pandora's box, unleashing a torrent of questions that will not be easily answered. One of the most striking aspects of Princess Anne's admission is the manner in which it diverges from the traditional royal ethos of silence and discretion. Historically, the royal family has cultivated an image of inscrutability, rooted in centuries of tradition. Scandals were always swept under the rug, often with the help of friendly media outlets, while the palace itself maintained a firm, no-comment stance. To break this code of silence, especially regarding something as monumental as Diana's death, suggests that Anne was compelled by something far deeper, perhaps a moral obligation to reveal the truth after years of holding back. Her revelation challenges the established norms of how royalty is expected to behave. The timing of this confession has raised questions about what motivated Anne to speak now after years of relative quiet. Many speculate that it could be due to several factors: the natural aging of key players involved in Diana's life and death, a desire to set the record straight for future generations, or even internal family dynamics that have shifted since the passing of Queen Elizabeth II. Whatever the reason, Anne's decision to finally address what has been whispered in the corridors of conspiracy for years signals a new chapter for the royal family, one that cannot be easily erased or contained. But what exactly did Princess Anne mean by an inside job? While her statement was deliberately vague, it was enough to rekindle numerous conspiracy theories that had faded from public consciousness but never fully disappeared. Among these, the idea that Diana was perceived as a threat to the royal family's carefully constructed image stands out. After her divorce from Prince Charles, Diana was no longer bound by the same restrictions that limited her public statements and actions. In fact, her post-royal life seemed to make her an even bigger star. Her trips to war zones, her work with AIDS patients, and her highly publicized relationship with Dodi Al-Fayed drew both public admiration and media attention. In a sense, Diana had become bigger than the institution itself. A celebrity in her own right, one who couldn't be controlled or managed by royal courtiers. Diana's increasing global prominence posed a complex problem for the royal family. The monarchy's survival depends, in part, on its ability to maintain an air of mystery while remaining above the fray of modern celebrity culture. Yet here was Diana, a figure who had embraced the press, used it to her advantage, and won over the hearts of millions in the process. The constant media coverage of her life and her unfiltered interviews were disruptive, threatening to expose cracks in the royal facade. In her famous 1995 interview with Martin Bashir, Diana had already revealed some of the deeply personal struggles she faced within the royal family, referring to the crowded nature of her marriage to Charles due to his long-standing relationship with Camilla Parker Bowles. That interview was a watershed moment, giving the public a peek behind the curtains of the royal palace in a way that had never been seen before. It was raw, emotional, and it changed the way people viewed Diana and the monarchy forever. If we follow the breadcrumbs left by Princess Anne's admission, it suggests that the royal family's dissatisfaction with Diana's public role may have extended beyond mere discomfort. Could there have been internal discussions about how to neutralize the perceived threat she posed? And more importantly, if those discussions took place, who was involved? Theories abound, and while some suggest that the Queen herself may not have been directly involved, the involvement of other senior royals or royal advisors, particularly those focused on protecting the institution at all costs, is a possibility that can no longer be ignored. In light of Anne's admission, the world is also forced to reconsider the role of various external agencies, most notably British intelligence services such as MI5 and MI6. For years, there have been whispers that Diana was under surveillance in the months leading up to her death, allegedly because of her romantic relationship with Dodi Al-Fayed, an Egyptian Muslim. At the time, it was claimed that elements within the British establishment were uneasy about the possibility of Diana marrying a non-Christian and potentially having children with him, which would have posed a thorny problem for the royal family. Some of these theories even suggest that powerful factions within the government and intelligence community may have coordinated to prevent Diana from taking steps that would have embarrassed the monarchy. While official investigations into Diana's death, including the inquest that took place in the years following her passing, cleared MI6 of involvement, many believed that the inquiries were incomplete. Testimonies from key witnesses were contradictory, important questions were left unanswered, and evidence seemed to have been tampered with or conveniently overlooked. For example, questions about the presence of a white Fiat Uno seen near the crash site and allegations that the driver, Henri Paul, had connections to intelligence services were never fully explained. Anne's comments have now raised the stakes, forcing the public to question whether these elements played a more central role in the tragedy than previously thought. Beyond the implications for the British establishment, Anne's confession has also put a spotlight on the international ramifications of Diana's death. In the years leading up to her passing, Diana had positioned herself as a global figure, using her celebrity and influence to champion causes that transcended national boundaries. Her campaign to ban landmines, for example, was highly controversial and made her a target for governments and corporate interests that profited from the production and sale of such weapons. Her involvement in humanitarian efforts, especially her work with AIDS victims and marginalized communities, was seen as progressive and even political in ways that previous royals had avoided. This global profile made her a powerful figure, but it also made her enemies. The idea that Diana's influence extended far beyond the United Kingdom means that her death may have had political consequences on an international scale. Speculation has swirled that her advocacy, particularly in regions ravaged by conflict, may have upset powerful interests outside of the British monarchy, prompting questions about whether foreign powers or multinational corporations may have played a role in orchestrating her death. Princess Anne's admission does not directly confirm this theory, but it does open the door to reconsider the global dimensions of Diana's life and demise. As these revelations continue to unfold, the question of accountability looms large. If there was indeed a coordinated effort, whether by the royal family, intelligence agencies, or other powerful entities, to orchestrate Diana's death, then who is responsible? And what justice can be served now, more than 2 decades later? This is not just a matter of uncovering the truth, but of reconciling the legacy of Diana with the institution she was once a part of. Princess Anne's admission has raised the stakes for those who have long called for a more thorough investigation into the circumstances of Diana's death. Public figures, media outlets, and even some politicians have renewed their demands for transparency, seeking answers to questions that have lingered since that fateful night in Paris. The question of justice is not just legal, it is also deeply personal for Diana's family, particularly her 2 sons, William and Harry. In the years since Diana's death, both have spoken openly about the profound effect it had on their lives. Harry, in particular, has been vocal about the toll that his mother's death, and the way it was handled by both the media and the royal family, has taken on him. His decision to step back from royal duties, along with his wife Meghan Markle, has been framed in part as a reaction to the pressures that Diana faced. Anne's confession, which seems to corroborate long-held suspicions, could deepen the divide between the 2 brothers and the institution they were born into. It may also prompt a re-evaluation of their roles within the monarchy and the way they choose to carry forward their mother's legacy. Diana's legacy, in many ways, is central to this unfolding drama. For millions of people around the world, she was the people's princess, a woman who broke the mold of traditional royalty by being emotionally accessible and publicly vulnerable. Her humanitarian work, her advocacy for those on the margins of society, and her ability to connect with people from all walks of life made her a beloved figure. But as Anne's admission suggests, Diana's openness and popularity may have also made her a target within an institution that thrives on control and discretion. If her death was indeed the result of an inside job orchestrated by those who feared what she had become, then her legacy takes on an even more profound meaning. What does it mean to be a royal in the modern world? And what happens when the institution itself becomes the enemy of one of its own? Princess Diana's life and death raised these questions long before Princess Anne's bombshell admission, but now they take on an even sharper edge. For years, the public has speculated that the monarchy, with its rigid rules and internal power struggles, was incapable of understanding or containing a figure like Diana. Now, with Anne's admission, the possibility that Diana was not just misunderstood but actively undermined and ultimately silenced has come into sharper focus. The ramifications of Princess Anne's statement are far-reaching, with the potential to reshape public understanding of the monarchy, its inner workings, and the lengths to which it might go to preserve itself. As the world grapples with the enormity of these revelations, one thing is clear: this story is far from over. In fact, it may be just the beginning of a new chapter in the ongoing saga of Princess Diana, the royal family, and the search for the truth. One of the most pressing questions that has emerged is the extent of the cover-up. If Princess Diana's death was indeed the result of a coordinated inside job, who were the key players involved? Was this a singular, deliberate act from a few high-level figures within the monarchy? Or did it involve a wider network of participants stretching into the British government, intelligence services, and possibly even global stakeholders? These questions open the door to speculation about how far such a conspiracy could have reached and whether it involved a systematic suppression of information and manipulation of public perception. For years, many have speculated that the British intelligence community, particularly MI5 and MI6, were keeping close tabs on Diana during the last years of her life. Given her high-profile relationship with Al-Fayed, an Egyptian businessman, there were rumors that the establishment was concerned about the potential consequences of Diana's engagement to a non-British, non-Christian partner. These concerns may have extended beyond the realm of personal relationships, touching on political sensitivities, especially in a post-colonial world where Britain's relationships with the Middle East were already fraught with tension. The role of British intelligence in monitoring Diana became a contentious issue during the inquest into her death, though it was officially dismissed. Yet Princess Anne's revelations suggest that perhaps these investigations did not go far enough, or that critical information was deliberately obscured. If MI5 or MI6 played a part, it would mean that Diana's movements, communications, and even her final hours were likely being observed and recorded, raising the possibility that the car crash in Paris was not only preventable, but possibly orchestrated or anticipated by those who were surveilling her. A key figure in this discussion is Henri Paul, the driver of the car that crashed in the Pont de l'Alma tunnel. The official report concluded that Paul was intoxicated and that his impaired judgment, combined with the high speed at which he was driving, caused the accident. However, doubts about this explanation have persisted for years. Paul was known to have connections with French intelligence services, and there were rumors that he might have been working as an informant. If he was indeed under orders or being used as part of a larger plot, then his role in Diana's death takes on new significance. Was Henri Paul simply a pawn in a larger game, manipulated into a position where he would unwittingly facilitate the accident? Or was he more directly involved, knowing full well that the outcome would be fatal? Adding another layer to this complex web is the potential involvement of international actors. Diana was not merely a British royal. By the time of her death, she had transcended national borders to become a global icon. Her humanitarian work, particularly her involvement in the campaign to ban landmines, had earned her both admiration and powerful enemies. This campaign, which sought to ban the use of landmines in conflict zones, directly challenged the financial interests of arms manufacturers and governments that relied on these weapons. There have been whispers that Diana's death may have been connected to her activism in this field. with powerful multinational corporations and military entities possibly viewing her as a threat to their lucrative businesses. If these entities saw her as a disruptive force, it is conceivable that they may have had a vested interest in silencing her. Diana's posthumous influence as a humanitarian has only grown in the years following her death, and her legacy continues to inspire global campaigns for peace and justice. However, the question now arises: could her advocacy have triggered a response so severe that it culminated in her murder? If Anne's statements imply that Diana was silenced because of her increasing independence and global influence, then the ramifications extend far beyond the walls of Buckingham Palace. It suggests that Diana's death was not just a matter of royal politics, but a calculated move by a much broader network of actors whose interests intersected with those of the British establishment. Another area where Anne's confession casts a long shadow is over Diana's relationships, particularly with Prince Charles and the royal family at large. In the years leading up to her death, Diana's estrangement from the royal family was well documented. Her divorce from Charles in 1996 and the way it played out in the media represented one of the most damaging periods in modern royal history. Diana's revelations about Charles's long-standing affair with Camilla Parker Bowles, combined with her own extramarital relationships, created a rift that was as public as it was personal. For the monarchy, which depends on presenting a united front, this was nothing short of disastrous. In the wake of the divorce, Diana had become an unpredictable force. Her decision to speak openly about her mental health struggles, her feelings of isolation within the royal family, and her dissatisfaction with her marriage broke royal protocol in unprecedented ways. The monarchy thrives on its image of stoicism, of being above the fray of human frailty and emotional volatility. Diana's very public vulnerability threatened that carefully cultivated image, and there were some within the institution who believed that she had gone too far in airing the family's dirty laundry to the world. Anne's statement, though veiled, points to the possibility that Diana's decision to distance herself from royal life may have sealed her fate. The fear, from a royal establishment perspective, was that Diana was no longer just an ex-royal. She was an uncontrolled variable. Her candidness, her deep connection with the public, and her defiance of the strictures placed upon her made her dangerous. And for an institution that places stability and continuity above all else, this unpredictability may have been perceived as a threat that needed to be neutralized. What stands out now, in the aftermath of Anne's comments, is how deeply ingrained these fears were. The royals have long been accused of prioritizing the preservation of the monarchy over the well-being of individual members of the family. In Diana's case, this internal struggle between the needs of the institution and the desires of the individual may have culminated in one of the darkest decisions ever made within the House of Windsor. Diana's global popularity also played a critical role in the tensions surrounding her. While the British public adored her and she became a symbol of compassion and empathy, within the royal family, her popularity may have been perceived as a liability. In an institution where public approval is vital for survival, Diana's overshadowing of the Queen, Prince Charles, and other senior royals would have been deeply unsettling. Diana had become an alternative center of power, with the ability to galvanize public opinion in ways that no royal had ever managed before. Diana's global popularity also played a critical role in the tensions surrounding her. While the British public adored her and she became a symbol of compassion and empathy within the royal family, her popularity may have been perceived as a liability in an institution where public approval is vital for survival. Diana's overshadowing of the Queen, Prince Charles, and other senior royals would have been deeply unsettling. Diana had become an alternative center of power with the ability to galvanize public opinion in ways that no royal had ever managed before. Her status as the people's princess posed a direct challenge to the monarchy's traditional hierarchies and its carefully constructed narrative of royal authority. In this light, Anne's revelations suggest that the decision to eliminate Diana may have been based on a perceived need to restore balance and control. The idea that the royal family would conspire against one of its own might seem implausible to some, but history is filled with examples of royal intrigue, backstabbing, and political maneuvering. Kings and queens have been deposed, betrayed, and assassinated for far less than what Diana represented, a fundamental disruption to the status quo. There is also the question of how the royal family, and the Queen in particular, viewed Diana's role as a mother. Diana was fiercely protective of her two sons, Prince William and Prince Harry, and her devotion to them was clear. But as their mother, she also represented a direct line of influence on the future kingship of Britain. William, as the heir to the throne, would have been exposed to Diana's worldview, her values, and her approach to public life. This influence may have caused concern among those who were invested in ensuring that the future monarch adhered to traditional royal principles. If Diana had lived, her influence over William and Harry might have further complicated their roles within the royal family, creating a schism between the modernizing values Diana championed and the conservative traditions of the monarchy. This brings us to the heart of the matter. Princess Anne's admission forces us to re-evaluate the royal family's priorities. If Diana's death was indeed orchestrated, then the monarchy's actions were driven by a desire to protect the institution at all costs, even if it meant sacrificing one of its most beloved members. This revelation would expose a level of ruthlessness that few outside the royal bubble have ever fully acknowledged. It paints a picture of an institution that is willing to do whatever it takes to survive, including eliminating perceived threats, even if those threats come from within the family. Moreover, the implications for the monarchy's future are profound. Public trust in the royal family has already been tested in recent years, with scandals involving Prince Andrew, the departure of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, and increasing scrutiny of the royal family's finances and privileges. Anne's admission about Diana's death could accelerate a growing disillusionment with the monarchy. It may also spur calls for reform or even discussions about the future of the monarchy itself. If the public comes to believe that the monarchy is capable of such dark machinations, it could lead to an irreversible erosion of trust, making it difficult for the institution to continue in its current form. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, could you leave your comments below and tell us your reaction to Princess Anne's confession about Princess Diana? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.